hot.
Wake up, America. You've got a dog that needs walking. That's right, sunshine. Just put on a big pot of strong coffee and get ready to type your little hate mail with your opinions about kumbaya and flat earth insanity. Stand-up comedy? You want stand-up comedy? Well, we've got sit-down comedy. It's time for Coffee with the Dog. You make me laugh.
Oh, well. Man just wants to play, I guess. Let them play. Go ahead. Rock out. Knock yourselves out. Yeah. Keep going. Okay. Don't worry. I'll wait. Oh, good morning, folks. Is it a good morning? It's a dreary morning here. It is Tuesday, August 8th, 2023. Hope it's a beautiful day wherever you are. Here it is ugly, rainy, gray. And I wish I was still sleeping, to be honest with you. We have a guest today, Jade Esteban Estrada, who will be performing at the Sixth City Comedy Festival in Cleveland, Ohio. I believe kicks off tonight. I'm not sure if he's performing tonight. We were supposed to have somebody else also from Sixth City. It's not good for a person with a lisp to say Sixth City. But I'm going to keep trying to say Sixth City. I'm not sure if the shows kick off tonight. And you know what? The website doesn't have a whole lot of information about the venue and all that stuff. Marla, when she was here last week, told us all that information. But, you know, it goes right over my head. I don't remember these things, and I want to know now, where is it? Where is it going to be? Doesn't say what clubs, where it's going to be. You know, it's tough. This whole marketing game is tough, folks. I tell you, it's a tough one. Apparently, I pissed off some people yesterday because I was just talking about Trump and his new indictments. So people thought I was saying that it would definitely happen yesterday, the Georgia indictment. I never made that claim. We're getting emails from people who got the impression that I said, I think it's going to happen this week. Now, some people are saying it's going to happen today. I don't know. You can't. It doesn't matter when it happens, but they are going to put him. It's going to be a little tense because the sheriff there is going to go out of his way to, make Trump feel like a regular, and he should feel like a regular person. Somebody who was just, taken in for a mugshot, fingerprinting, and probably, I don't know. I don't want to say probably, possibly, made to put up actual bail money, put up a bond, show that you're not going to run. So we'll see about that. Anyway, we will be talking to Jade Esteban Estrada. 3 names. I'm looking at Jade's website, and all I see is comedy festivals. It's like he doesn't play clubs; he just does festivals. Interesting in that he is from Texas, or born in Texas. I don't know how long he lived in Texas, but from Texas, he's a Mexican American gay fella. Which, hey, that's fine. It's fine. Oh, got bit. But he has been giving and I want to ask him about that. He's been given an honor by the state of Kentucky Colonel, which is kind of weird, like Kentucky Fried Chicken. I mean, that's the best they could come up with, Kentucky Colonel. I just want to know how that happened. and he seems to be a lot in the Midwest, which the world, maybe my perceptions, my own prejudices about Middle America, what they will accept and what they're open to, is wrong. Because I would think that an openly gay Mexican comedian would have a tough time in states like Kentucky. Well, Texas is full of Mexicans. I'm sorry to say, but the whole mix of it, Mexican and gay, very conservative, right wing, stuck up states in my mind. Now I could be wrong about that, and I guess he's going to tell me I am wrong. Well, maybe it's time for me to learn something, snap out of it, smack myself out of my own damn um, prejudices. Last night, as you know, yesterday I put out an apology for Amy Miller. I put it on YouTube, and Ian, who is a very loyal listener to this program, I guess, as far as loyal listeners to the program go, commented on that I had to watch out. Don't mess with. I don't know exactly what he said. I'm paraphrasing. Don't mess with Amy. She has friends in the business, so she's connected or something like. What could happen to me? What have I got to lose? I got nothing. I really got nothing. I got one foot in the grave. I don't have a career to speak of. To speak of. I don't have a career. I got nothing. You know what I'm doing? I'm playing the VA today. Um I'm playing the room where I played the guy to death. That room today. That's my career. So I mean, what have I got to lose? Well, people in the industry, what? Nobody's going to come on the show. Look what what am I doing? It's not like I'm having fucking superstars on the program every fucking week, and they're all like Hollywood A-listers or even B-listers or even C-listers or D-listers. So it is what it is. Nobody knows where I am, and I wanted to talk about this on Threads. The one good thing about Threads, you know about Threads. You're on Threads? Who's on Threads? Raise your hand if you're on Threads. Nobody. Nobody's on fucking Threads. I'm on Threads. Carl's on Threads, but I don't see him on there. He signed up for it, and that was all happened. But the one good thing about Threads from Meta is that I used to think I was invisible on Twitter because I get very little engagement on posts and stuff on Twitter. But Threads has enlightened me to the fact that I get a lot of engagement on Twitter compared to what I get on Threads. No, totally invisible on Threads. I could say hello, and people would ignore me. Like I could say hello directly to one person, like hello, and not get a comeback. How are you? Nothing. And not that I've done that, but I mean that's how ignored I am on this. So I don't. And I'm wondering if it's just me, or it could be just me. Could be just that I'm a dick, as we talked about yesterday. Oh, I can be a dick. I have situational dickiness. Um, so it could be just me, but I don't think it's just me. And if that's the case, I don't see Threads being all that successful. They still have to have a desktop app, and they don't yet. And I mean, if you go there, you get a page with one of those barcode things. You're supposed to scan a QR codes, whatever that is, and you're supposed to scan it. But then it's on your phone, and there are people who maybe they're trying to cut out old people like me, which would be a smart move. Just cut us out, get rid of us. But there are people my age who don't live on phones. We just don't live on phones. So I don't foresee Threads being a big thing now. Some comedians are on. They're still posting. I'm gonna look at this really quick. I have comedians I follow who are posting like one-liner jokes there frequently. This isn't Threads. Where the fuck is Threads? Threads. Here we go. My Threads. Uh, well, I got the Onion posting something about the soccer team. How and such a weird thing, man. All these flag waving people are celebrating the fact that the USA, a women's soccer team, lost because they're too fucking woke. Whatever fucking too fucking woke means. If you're a flag waver, you're a flag waver. And your team that's representing your country, you want them to win. But no, this all comes down to nah, 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 with these fucking children in political circles. Anyway, uh, Erica Rhodes, she posted a joke there. Derek Sheen posted a joke there. Isabella Hagen. This is what's on my. I love this. I love comedy. Don't get me wrong. I mean, this is why I do the show. I love comedy. But if I'm going to do something right now, just post. I have done this. I invisible. Somebody say hello to me, and like, yeah, see right through. I'm like a homeless guy on the on the sidewalk. People just stepping over me on their way to work on Threads. Is this happening to you? Are you on Threads? This is the question of the day. Are you on Threads? And is this happening to you? Now, one thing I wanted to, it's all comedians, which I love. It's very little politics. It's good stuff. I mean, the as far as what I'm seeing there, I like it. There's not a whole lot of fucking fighting or stupidness, and it's just like yucks and stuff, and guys playing with horses, cats, you know, what social media used to be. Um, some people might call it boring, but because there's no fighting or any of that stuff. But there's no interaction and I don't see even. Well, no, somebody's getting the Onion thing got 22 replies, so somebody is interacting. But my friend Momo, is a bass player up in Canada, fucking great player, man. He posted something, got one like and no comments on it. Uh, everything I'm seeing here, I don't want to name these names, but no likes, no comments. And this is a major a name in comedy, somebody you would know, another person you would know, no likes, no comment. It's like Threads is the ultimate. I'm just posting stuff that nobody cares about, nobody will see, nobody will interact with. That's not how to run a successful social media network. I don't see it competing with Twitter, and I think Elon Musk is going to get the last laugh on that one. It seems like nobody cares. It's there. I do think they need to get the desktop app, and I know a lot of people. This is another question of the day for you. How many people actually use the desktop version of Twitter, or as opposed to their phone? I think most people live on their phone on Twitter. But old people like me, we can't. I'm not a thumb typer. You know what I mean? I'm a finger guy. And a lot of old people like me are finger people. Like one finger, I'm going to type with one finger at a time. It's so we need desktops. We need big screens, and I'm sure we'll die off before uh, the final straw is written. Final chapter on the story of social media is written. We'll all be long dead. They don't care about us, and they shouldn't. The world belongs to young people. So anyway, my guest are in the green room. I will bring him in just 1 minute. Right now, I want to tell you about cold coffee. And listen, there's not enough coffee on this planet to wake me up today. I made the mistake last night. Or made, I don't know if you call it a mistake. I was at my local dispensary getting, just window shopping, I guess. And they have a clearance table. Oh, what's this clearance table over there? It's just stuff. Just stuff. What do you mean? Well, there's edibles. These kind of, I don't know, like old time candy chewables, and they're 30 milligrams each. And they're $2 each. $2 each. Oh, I'll take a handful of them. And I've been staying away from the edibles. But then last night, because it was such a shitty day here yesterday. It was all bummed out, and I'm coming up on a another uh, milestone of a marker of trips around the sun. That's a fancy way of saying a fucking birthday, uh, and it's stressing me out. And so last night I took one, but I took it late, and it started to hit me around, I don't know, 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning, and I'm having a good time. I'm not going to sleep. I was playing guitar till 3 o'clock in the morning, 3:30 in the morning, something like that, and then still didn't get to sleep. So there's not enough coffee, on the planet for me today. But there is cold coffee to help, and I hope you will get some cold coffee. Find out about cold coffee right here, right now. This episode is brought to you by Koa Coffee. If you are a coffee connoisseur and want to experience the best coffee Hawaii has to offer, no blends, no compromise, try the true taste of aloha. Koa Coffee produces premium Hawaiian coffee, hand-picked, expertly roasted, and delivered from Hawaii to your door with aloha. From award-winning 100% Kona coffee grown on the slopes of the Mauna Loa volcano to the unique mocha beans of Maui, they strive to provide their loyal customers with the best quality and freshness. It's vulcanized coffee. Since 1997, Koa Coffee has been known far and wide as a product of utmost quality, and their awards prove it. Koa Coffee was featured in Forbes' Top 10 Coffees of the World. This is the coffee Forbes called the best coffee in America. Find out what it's all about. Go to minddogtv.com/coffee. Yeah, and if you're a pretty young girl, the best way to get Koa Coffee is to run on the beach. Yeah, here's one now. Excuse me, young lady. Can I get you some coffee? She doesn't answer. See, she must be on Threads. She must follow me on Threads because she doesn't answer me. She doesn't interact. Offer her a cup of coffee. She just runs away like that. The sixth city. If you got a lift like I have a lift, so saying the sixth city sounds like sick city. Sick. Sick city. It's sixth. Man, I'm mad at Marla for naming it sixth. Marla Massey runs the Sixth City Comedy Festival. I can't be the only one that has trouble saying sixth, especially in the morning. Sixth City Comedy Festival kicks off tonight in Cleveland, Ohio. Another thing I'm a little bit upset about with Marla is there's no venue information, but my guest today is one of the stars that will be performing at the Sixth City Comedy Festival. Jade Esteban Estrada, which is easier to say than fixed, is an American journalist, radio personality, and stand-up comedian. Out Magazine christened him as the first gay Latin star. I wonder if they ever heard of Ricky Martin. Estrada is a graduate of the American Musical and Dramatic Academy in New York, and he's here now. Welcome, Jade. How are you? Good morning.
I'm good. Good morning to you, sir. I have so much to say, but I'm still on the girl on the beach, who is likely on Threads. That is just so hilarious. And you're right. There's not enough coffee in the world.
Yeah,
I agree.
Where are you in Cleveland now?
I am not. I'm in Cincinnati, Ohio.
That's a long way. That's a long drive. Are you performing tonight?
No, I'm performing tomorrow night.
Okay. Yeah, good.
So it's a Wednesday through Saturday event.
Okay.
And I'm performing tomorrow night. And I'm here just for you, actually.
Oh, well, I appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, You're the only one. I told Marla, we need to get the comedians out and letting people know about the festival. You're the only one that actually followed through on that, and thank you for that. And I'm sure Marla thanks you for that too.
Sure, no, that's surprising. But I understand the busyness that is life, and then when you're a comedian in this day and age, and you were making the point, kind of, in a lateral way, that being a comedian is like having 20 full-time jobs.
Yeah, I
So doing all that like marketing stuff is you have to really stop and make a list of priorities.
right. I am curious. I've read some stuff about you. I've watched some one video where I've seen you on stage. I've never seen you live, but I've watched YouTube video on you and read some stuff. One of the things that first of all, you're from Texas, right? You're born.
Originally, yes, correct. Mm-hmm.
But you've been named a Kentucky Colonel in the state of Kentucky. What, do you have roots there? I mean, how do you get to be a Kentucky Colonel?
So I've been performing for a very long time. And in 2006, I performed for what I remember to be the Marriage Equality organization. It's nationwide. It's based in New York, and they were doing something in connection to the state level in Kentucky. That same organization and that same idea. And I used to have a show called Icons: The Lesbian and Gay History of the World, Volume 3. There were 5 volumes altogether. And the show I did there was I did a bit where I played Mary Cheney, who was the lesbian daughter of former Vice President Dick Cheney. And it's so interesting. This is a whole conversation we could talk forever about, but it's about the ongoing realization and reminder to yourself that there are so many subcategories of audiences.
Right.
And in this case, they were nothing but people who were political historian advocates, mostly Democrats. And so when I performed Mary Cheney, whereas I debuted the show actually in Columbus, Ohio, people enjoyed it. But in that particular, it was Lexington, Kentucky, and they went nuts over it. And the senator at the time spoke to the governor, who was a Republican governor at the time. Oh, he still is, I imagine, but he's not the governor anymore. But the Republican governor commissioned me a Kentucky colonel, and I was like, whoa. And I think at the time, because we always have different things, like right now it's cannabis, right now it's transgender issues. People are just finding things to just discuss all over again. But at the time, it was marriage equality. And at the time, there was this big hoopla over the actions or inactions of Mary Cheney while she was in that circle of power. So it was just a perfect storm in a good way, I guess. Right. And that's how that happened.
When you hear Kentucky Colonel, you think of Kentucky Fried Chicken and Colonel Sanders, and I was just like, I would first question I was, do you want me to sell chicken? Do I have to dress
do
up?
I have to do anything? No, I was happy to see that other Kentucky Colonels are Johnny Depp, who's from Kentucky, Joan Crawford, the Pope, Ronald Reagan, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is not bad company. I love it. I can do this. I'll sell chicken. I'll sell chicken.
Joan Crawford was a maniac. Not, or do I have that wrong? She was like a crazy person, mommy dearest or whatever.
Absolutely. So I felt her. I was very much understanding of her vibe.
But marriage equality is still for some people, it's still a super major issue. Some people, especially in the the right-wing podcasting world, the Ben Shapiro's and Matt Walsh, those people, and I just can't understand, like, how could it possibly affect your life if two people get married? How does their life affect your life, and why are you so against it? Why are you still hung up on it in 2023? But it's still a major political issue. But what I'm curious about is you're playing a lot of these right down the middle of America, kind of very conservative states, and being, out there and being who you are, I would think, you're going to come up against a lot of bigotry, no?
Yes. Let me give you some context to what I think my answer is going to be. When I first decided to go on tour this time around, I was genuinely curious, and I guess this is the journalist in me. I was genuinely curious as to who we were as Americans after Me Too, after Black Lives Matter, a pandemic. I wanted to know if we had changed, if we had gotten closer as a people and as a nation, or further apart. And that was the primary purpose of me going on stage. I was curious to see, where we were, because I had taken, I guess we all had in some way, there was a little bit of a break in stand-up comedy that it just morphed. All of a sudden, I remember, what was it? 2020, 2021. Oh my goodness. People were just burnt at the stake for certain jokes.
Right.
And it became a dangerous place to be a stand-up comedian. And that fascinates me. Like I was born for this kind of exploration of conflict. I'll say that. And when people disagree, I also find that fascinating, because that's been going on since the beginning of time. We have cavemen going, no, that's my stone. That's my cave. So yes, when you were describing your question as beautifully as you did, I was thinking of a recent show I had actually on July 15th in San Angelo, Texas. Smack in the middle of just, it's West Texas. There's nothing really close.
I know it.
And I did a show there, and I had a good show, I thought. And I got off stage, and a woman who was dressed very much like she was going to a Trump rally. Like those women, like over the age of 50, there's a certain hat, there's a certain blingy kind of blouse. I mean, there's a uniform. It's drag, right?
Yeah.
And she came up to me and she wanted to sing a song with me. There was a karaoke event afterwards. And she goes, I want you to sing a song with me. And I was like, well, I don't really know that song. But we started talking, and she wanted to take selfies. And I said, I'm going to go now because, I got to head out in the morning really early. And she pulled me aside and she said, Jade, when you first came on stage, I was really, really turned off by you. And I said, oh. She said, really turned off. And I was like, oh. And when she said that, I remembered that when I started my set, she was speaking loudly, and she had her back to me, talking to her friends. And I remember going, oh, I remember that. But I also remember that at some point it stopped. And she goes, but you're funny. And I was like, oh, thank God. And then she said, no, you're funny because, and this is what she said, she goes, because you're so intelligent. And I said, oh, that's very nice of you to say. And she goes, no, you're intelligent without bias. And when she said that, I realized that was a statement that she was trying to work through, because she had never met in my what I was getting, someone who looked like me or spoke like me or presented like me and had a positive experience.
Right.
She goes, and what are you doing? What did she say? She goes, you are in redneck hell. That's what she said. And she's like almost like, what are you doing here? And that resonated with me so much as to why I'm doing what I'm doing.
Very cool.
Yes, it's very dangerous. Absolutely. Oh, could I share one thing with you about?
Sure, please.
So, being on this tour, I get the far, far, far right and the dangerously far left in my audiences. I did a show a couple of months ago where I believe it was like 90% of the audience identified as trans.
Wow.
Like 90. And you got to be careful what you say around progressive sometimes, because I might present the way I am, but I'm from Texas.
Right.
So yes, I always say that a Democrat, like a liberal Democrat from Texas, is actually a conservative Republican in Seattle or Portland.
Yeah, that's very true.
It's just so interesting. This I did a show in Seattle, and these three beautiful trans women came up to me, and one was very maternal. She says, "I want you to be very careful on your tour." And I said, "Well, thank you. I appreciate that." She goes, and she grabbed both of my hands with both of her hands, and she says, "Because what you are doing is very dangerous." And the woman next to her goes, "Oh, it's a terrible idea." And I think of the contrast
Right.
of like from show to show of what America is, and that thrills me to be able to present comedy, the one thing that can bring us together in arguably, and it just feels good.
All
It
right,
really feels
I
good.
want to lump music in there with that though, because if you go if everybody is in the same concert type of feeling, and songs can you erase a lot of the walls that we build between each other.
Absolutely. And you know
Um,
what? I get a lot of comedians will disagree with me on this, but I do believe that comedy, with its, setup, punchline, laugh, setup, punchline, laugh, that is absolutely musical. And I
yeah.
see a lot of my musician friends are like, "How on earth is that musical?" I'm like, if you listen to the musicality of what happens in a comedy show, you may find yourself agreeing with me.
I 100% agree with you, and I've always thought that, and I know a lot of the people I admire from my early days in being exposed to comedy would say the same thing. So I totally agree with that. But one of the ideas here now, because you I think what you're doing is important, but one of the ideas that came across to me as seeing the limited stuff that I've seen from you is that you do kind of invite potential haters in. You're making jokes about your own existence, and the the bringing up, and you say stuff like, well, and I don't want to give away, I can't do your material, but you say stuff like Texas is full of Mexicans anyway, and so the people who are naturally bigoted or whatever, to them that sounds like, oh, this guy's just being real, I can listen to him. And you're inviting them in as
Mhm.
opposed to pushing them away. I think a lot of comedians, they come in with this, I'm going to change who you are, I'm through my comedy, I'm going to change your perspective on the world, and you're more like, I'm going to meet you where you are and make you laugh no matter who you are, and I
Absolutely.
appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I always say this in regards to children. You really have to respect children because they're humans too. They might look small, but
Yeah.
they're humans. They have a mind, they have a soul, they have an opinion. And one day they're going to get on the mic and they're going to tell you those opinions that might be influenced by the experience they had with adults when they were growing up, whether the parents and the teachers and all that, of course they shape who we are, but absolutely 100%, I think one can never lose sight in comedy of the respect that's necessary of the audience that's in front of you.
Right.
They're coming from all sorts of places, and they are vastly intelligent,
Yeah. Yeah.
and they're all going to have different opinions. And what I love about stand-up comedy, and I've always said this, is that within the first 2 minutes, you can tell how old they are, who they voted for, where they're from, all that stuff by where they laugh.
Wow. Yeah.
It's so telling. It's fantastic. And no show has ever been the same because of that.
Wow. Now you did study at American Musical and Dramatic Academy in New York. How much time did you spend in New York? A couple of years? Were you,
16 years.
16 years.
Mhm.
So, doing comedy clubs, because what I see on your schedule is comedy festivals. But have you done a lot of road work and done the especially in New York, the 10 clubs in a night that drop in for an 8-minute set here, an 8-minute set there.
Oh, yeah. Yes, I have not as much. There was a point when I left New York that I felt that this sounds kind of crazy to say in my head, but I don't have another way to say it. I felt that I was best utilized in America. So I remember the month where I said, you know what? New York has given me everything that it needs to give me. And I always say this about people who stay in New York too long. Same thing for LA. If you're not from there, especially if you're an artist, it's like if you're like a jar, New York will give you inspiration, it will give you mentors, it will give you like crazy high level experiences. But once you shut that jar, if it starts spilling over and you're not using all of these experiences and sharing these things with the world, as I believe you should, it starts to embitter you and turn against you. Like it's almost like people who have too much money and they get bitter and angry, like, I have everything, why am I unhappy, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I wanted to get out because I felt that my cup was overflowing, and I was like, there's too much that I have, that I've seen and people that I've spoken to, and I need to share that with the world.
Yeah, excellent. Now, when you are out performing, are you are you a lone wolf, or do you have somebody you do shows with like on a regular basis, or whether because I'm seeing more and more of that Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid kind of comedian duo. Not necessarily they're a team, but they do a lot of gigs together or a lot of performances together. Because comedy, as I'm sure you're very aware, is a very lonely existence sometimes, especially being on the road doing stuff. Or you're a one-person show. It's not like you're traveling with a band or have an entourage or any of them. Or maybe you do have an entourage. I don't know. But so that the idea of traveling or hooking up with somebody else to perform with in certain cities might make it a little bit more, I don't know, feel more normal. Do you do that, or are you basically a lone wolf?
I have a few folks that I travel with because I think it's a good match. I think it's a good match for me. And I go by region, and I try to be respectful of someone. And to answer your question, no, I don't. So when I do work with someone like semi-regularly, I try to say, this is how much money we're talking about. Are you comfortable traveling in this area for X amount of money? Because, it's all a numbers game when you're touring.
Yeah.
But no. And it's funny that I keep hearing this thing about loneliness. What is this thing you call loneliness? Yeah. A friend of mine I saw in Texas recently, I remember she was like leaving and we were partying. And she goes, I want you to call me on the road when you get lonely. And I was like, I don't get lonely. Like, wow. I know that sounds kind of crazy. I almost brought 2 dogs last year at the beginning of my tour. They kind of adopted me. I started feeding them. I know you're not supposed to do that, but I did. Got attached. And because I thought to myself, maybe I'm lying to myself, and maybe I am lonely. I'm not really connected to that part. Let me bring some dogs, and they're going to enrich my life and all that. So I had a month before I was going to put them in the car. I was traveling about. And as there was a couple of shows that I was thinking about the dogs. And I said, wait a minute, if the dogs were with me and I had left them at the hotel or the Airbnb and they were ripping up the place or barking and the neighbors called the cops and all that stuff, my mind is not going to be 100% on my audience. That's why I'm on the road. I'm not on the road to go on vacation with dogs. Right. And when I came home during that one section of where I was supposed to pick up the dogs, I said, you know what? I don't think that's going to work out.
Wow.
And I felt bad because I got connected to the dogs, but like about 3 days later, I kind of I didn't think about them anymore.
Being any kind of creative person, I think most of us who have a creative energy would cherish the time of being alone to create. I mean, that's the time you're right and all that stuff.
Absolutely.
But I am definitely that, and I would not necessarily get lonely most of the time, but I mean, there's a lot of hours to fill.
Well, you know what? I actually really still struggle for time alone, and I'm going to tell you why. I've been touring for much longer than this tour, which started last year. I've been touring for a long time, And I have made friends in different cities around the country and around the world. So when I go to Houston, I go to Denver, I go to Seattle, I go to Miami, there are folks who were either fans, audience members, former producers who are no longer in the game, who I genuinely made a connection with. And when I go and do a show, I try really hard to connect with them, because I call that human stuff.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, yes, I've said this many a times. They're just like, oh, what about your life and stuff? I'm like, you guys, I want to die in the middle of a joke.
Like that, I've always said I want to die on stage.
Right. That's what I finally realized, that's the point,
Yeah.
And so when people talk about building relationships, I have relationships with my audiences, and when I meet certain people that the universe puts in my path, I have tons of beautiful relationships that maybe I only see them when I pass through the city. Maybe I only get a phone call or text, or we Zoom every once in a while, but they're rich relationships. And the net is cast wider because I travel internationally. So I meet incredible people. Right. And even some of these incredible people, I'm like, I want to sit with you for 2 hours, but I got to get on this plane.
Right.
And so I think those times where someone might look at me at a cafe and think, wow, that person is lonely. What's actually happening is me processing the amazing experiences I've just had.
Yeah.
And it looks just like loneliness, probably, but I'm like, whoa, again, my cup runneth over. This is
get
amazing.
That too. People from the outside looking in, it's a very different experience than what's really going on here.
Absolutely.
It's something you need a lot. I need a lot of time after a performance to integrate and just kind of
to decompress.
Enjoy the experience. Right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, decompress.
That's why God invented Netflix.
Yeah. You mentioned being on a plane a lot. My wife asked me, what's going on with the planes? Because she said, are people getting crazier on planes? And what do you think is all about? That's all about. She was watching a video where some woman cracked a laptop over another passenger's head. Are you seeing an increase? Because we got to spend a lot of time on planes. An increase on insanity in air flight?
No, there's not an increase in insanity. Sadly, there's a decrease. I think, again, this kind of, for me, this points back to those 3 events that happened back to back. I mean, usually throughout history, and this is really the victors are the ones that write history kind of thing. But I mean, I'm sure this has happened in the past before. You don't have things like Me Too, Black Lives Matter, and a pandemic so close together.
Yeah.
And everyone experienced that in a different way. I'll make a parallel. A lot of young comedians will come backstage and they'll be like, yes, that was the laugh I was looking for. Everybody got the joke. And I can't shut up sometimes because I'm older. And I usually say, I just want to put this in your head. I said, if you were to do a survey of everyone that was in that room and ask them why they laughed at that joke, you're going to get 100 different answers and I think that's the same for people's remembrance or of how they experienced and how they dealt with the past 3 events that happened so bam, 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 bam.
No doubt about what you say. Everybody and people can find a joke hysterical for completely different reasons. Yesterday, G.D. Fenderson was on here, and he's a black guy at my age, and he was talking about one of his song parodies, and it's a song parody of the Rolling Stones' "Painted Black." And he wrote, I see a red car, but the driver looks to be black. And he's doing it from a cop thing. And it was funny on that level. But I said to him at that time, there are people, who, white supremacists or whatever, who would tell that same joke and laugh at it for the opposite reason that you're laughing at it. And so, but it would still be funny to them, and not to kind of talk about the division. But the idea is that the same joke can be very funny to different people for completely different reasons. And
It's funny that you say that. I just did a show over in Pasadena, Texas, on the outskirts of Houston, and a friend of mine, a producer, we both love comedy, so we're always observing comedy. And he goes, "This one comedian has this hilarious joke," and he told me the joke, and I said, "That is hilarious," and I laughed for like about a whole 3 minutes. And I said, "I gotta see this guy's face. I want to like put his face together with this joke." And I said, "Oh, he's white?" And he said that? I said, "That's a little different, dude." And he's like, "How?" I'm like, "What?" I'm like, "I'm sorry. I've learned a lot." There's like,
yeah,
I mean, me as a queer person, and I only say queer because I can't say all those letters. Um,
me neither.
I have to watch what I say in a room full of lesbians, a room full of gay men, a room full of trans men, a room full of trans women. And then there's the intergenerational aspect of all that. And then there's the geographical aspect of that.
Right, right.
If I'm talking to a trans woman from New Orleans or from a small town in Missouri versus someone in the Pacific Northwest, these environment and the political traditions of certain areas, they seep into you, just like if you're living next to Chernobyl. I mean,
Right.
you can't help but absorb what's around you. And that's one of the big things when I go to a certain place, I'm like, yeah, they might identify as queer, but because of these factors, I should not expect this queerness to be just this umbrella of everybody's thinking the same thing at the same time.
Wow. Yeah, yeah, and I agree. And I can't say that word because I grew up with that being a bad word and offensive, an insult to people.
Right,
But
right.
I also can't say the LBG because I always get it wrong, the order. And I have gotten hate mail about getting. You said the L and you started with G and it starts with L, and it's like, come on, man, I can't. I'm not meaning to disrespect people. It's they adding too many letters on it. It used to be LGB, and then all of a sudden it's like the inverted alphabet somehow.
It really
Kings.
is. And just to give you a little bit of the perspective of where I'm coming from, I remember with Me Too, as a gay man, the way I present, who I've always hung out with. I've always hung out with women, always, since the playground, always. And when Me Too happened, I was doing a lot of burlesque shows. I seem to vibe, I used to vibe very well with the burlesque community. And there was this sense of when Me Too happened, when I was like, yeah, girls, I'm totally with you. It's like the patriarchy, down with the patriarchy. And there was this, not everybody, but there was this sense of, you have male privilege. You are not part of this.
Wow.
I know. And so from then on, I started to realize that people who are really serious about feminism and very specific about it, I'll say that. I did have my male privilege called out on occasion. And I'm good at looking at things from both sides or three sides or five sides. They're not wrong. I can say and do a lot of things because of this male privilege that they spoke of, I can do a lot of things because of my gay privilege. I get great grants as a Hispanic. I mean, there is privilege to go all around. So, it gave me a lot to process at the cafe, if you will.
I find a lot of female feminists, because there are male feminists. Female feminists are exclusive. In other words, they don't want your help. They want to be able to tell you when you can be supportive of them and when you can't be,
Wow.
and where your lines are, and yeah, I feel like what, you want to put me in chains now because I happen to be a born male. It doesn't matter if I agree with you on civil rights and want to fight for your rights. You should welcome me as somebody who's going to help fight for equality for you. And we don't have to agree on everything, but if you know that I'm there to support you, but I get all sorts of barriers to what I can say and how I can be supportive, and I find that very weird. Like, I would welcome help from anybody who wanted to
It's
help me out.
oppressive. It's
Yeah,
oppressive, absolutely, because
yeah,
people are telling you what you can and can't do as a creative person and a creator.
right. You know
Mm.
what's really interesting here on Long Island, New York, where I am,
Love
is
Long Island.
yeah, we have a lot of red as far as politically, Trump supporters and all this stuff. And that group is really right now being told they have to hate trans people.
Yeah. Wow. Whoa.
But
Yeah.
right.
That's crazy. Yeah.
But we also have a large trans community here. We have Miss Fire Island uh, pageant every year, and a lot of those Trump supporters are being told they need to hate trans people. I've been part of that and celebrate that every year, and they still do. Uh, but it's how do you go home and listen to whatever your cable television mind washes about how you're supposed to hate the people you were just partying with, and I don't know, it's just very weird. But we have that duality of people who who associate with and align themselves with people who hate the people that they love the most. It's so crazy, man. Crazy time.
Mhm.
I
It's
think
a
you're right
game.
though.
It's a game. It
Yeah,
really is a game. It's a pendulum that swings both ways. And a lot of what I see is around that started with our friend Mr. DeSantis. It really, I mean, Florida is a very influential state.
yeah,
And when you have a leader who really wants to get elected and really says things that are very provocative. I mean, remember, he has to be more provocative than Trump to get on the ballot
right,
in that nomination. So he's doing everything he can to make waves for the swing voters and the people who were not old enough to vote for Trump when they have the opportunity to. So he's doing things that are very reminiscent of very bad people in our history.
yeah, yeah,
And I feel that one of the most important thing, it's so funny that you say this because I was just thinking this yesterday. I was like, wait a minute. If we're trying really hard to bring attention to the toxicity of what Ron DeSantis is saying, that is a very specific audience of Republicans who are on the fence, who may or may not be within an earshot of more reasonable people.
right,
Because it's Democrats and progressives can say all they want about Ron DeSantis, but that's not who you vote for in the primary if you're registered as a Democrat.
right, yeah.
So it's like, wow, where is this slither of an audience that we need to talk to make sure?
I hate the whole lining up in terms of Democrat and Republican and being team oriented. You're either on one team or the other,
Mhm.
because I feel like almost, and I said this long before Trump was in the picture or any of this stuff. I feel like the two-party system causes you to align every belief with that party, and you can't take any issue on its own merit. Like, there would be conservatives who would be for marriage equality, but because they define themselves as Republican, identify as Republican, and that's not the party system, they abandon their empathy for that cause and say, well, the party line is this, I got to go on this, even though it's just it narrows your thinking, the whole two-party system, and I don't like it at all, which is why I'm running as an
And it
independent.
forces you to compromise,
Right,
which is a huge arm of what politics is in the first place. It's
right,
nothing but, okay, we got to get behind one idea and 10 people are disagreeing. We
right.
need to have a strong front.
I need to put these websites, your website, banners, your website in Six City. Your website is getjaded.com. It's in the description, nice and easy to click on for people. And then for the Sixth City, I can't say sixth.
Say it 3 times fast and it'll
Sixth,
really be
sixth,
wonders.
sixth. It always sounds, it's either sick, I can say Six City, or sixth city, the stopping with the tongue between the teeth is a difficult one.
I had the same issue with one of those prequels, Star Wars prequels. They had
Yeah.
something of the Sith, and I
Yeah.
remember thinking, what an odd word. And then here I kind of see it again.
Yeah. But with regards to the Sixth City Comedy Festival, have you done it before? Is this your
I have
first
not
time?
done it before. I believe this is the third annual. I'm really excited to be here. I was at the Rubber City Comedy Festival in Akron, Ohio in May. That was a fantastic experience. So I'm really excited to be back in the area and performing for folks from Ohio.
One of the things I'm a little upset with about now, I'm just kidding. I'm not, but it might be an oversight. But on this website, it doesn't say the venue. It doesn't say. So where are you going to be tomorrow night? Do you know?
So I can tell you if I do this. The thing about the venue thing with any festival is that there are multiple
I
venues.
know that.
And so sometimes they don't put them all, in front. You have to click the ticket information. So on Wednesday night, I'm going to be at Lakewood Village Tavern. And then on Thursday night, I'm going to be at the Bop Stop at the Music Settlement. And then Saturday, I'm going to be at Skidmark Garage.
That sounds interesting.
Yeah. I've had to write that down many, many times, and I've thought the same thing.
Now, do you know any of the people you're performing with? Like the lineup?
I do, and I'm happy to give a shout out. The big show, it seems, the big money shows are always the Friday and Saturday shows, but the big show that we're doing here at Skidmark, it's called Live at Skidmark Garage, and I'll be performing with Reva Riley, Darius Day, Monica Hager, Joey Purse, and Enoji Ozjan. And I mean, I just love comedy festivals because our job is such a soloist endeavor. It's just by yourself.
Right.
And if the lights are really bright, you barely see the audience. And then maybe you see wonderful comedians for about 5 minutes backstage. If you're lucky, you can have a nice conversation. But we all do the same thing. We're creating comedy by ourselves. So comedy festivals are not just a wonderful opportunity for the local community to come out and see national performers, but for us to see a comedian. I mean, we work with comedians all the time, but it's a wonderful thing to go, I'm a fan of that comedian. Like I would go and pay money to see this comedian, even though it's what I do too.
Right. Yeah. First of all, 6 comedians, they can't be all doing an hour. It's probably 20 minutes or somewhere like that. A 20-minute set.
It gets broken up. Yes, it gets broken up into sets. So like in that Saturday night lineup I just described, maybe we all get about 10 to 12 minutes.
Wow. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, do you care about where you are in that? Like the best place for you, the best placement for you in that lineup, or who you're following, or who you're leading into? Does that matter to you, or do you just do the same show no matter what and where you are?
Right. As a closer, you always want to bring it, of course. So there's that role.
Yeah.
And as an opener, you also want to bring it because you're the first one to show them, hey, this is the level of comedy you're about to be seeing. Different advantages. It's like I like going on first or second if I'm in the mood to sit down, have a drink, and enjoy some good old-fashioned comedy. Yeah. It's nice to go on first in situations like that. Middle, it's a good place to be because you can ride on the energy, like a surfboard that's been of the laughter. Going at the end, if it's been a great show, you're right at the top. It's just like it's so easy and so wonderful to get those laughs. So it varies. They all have their different, attributes.
Well, good for you that you can experience it in that way. For me, my life is a completely different thing. Of course, in music, you have opening acts, and then you're either a headliner or a middle act after that. And for me, it always feels like competition. And this is where, because what I'm seeing now in comedy, and I think podcasting has ruined a lot of comedians, because a lot of become overexposed, but they are clickiness, and there's also a clickiness and a backbitingness within the clicks. So we're this clique of comedians here, and we do podcasts together, and all week long, I'll have you on my podcast, you'll have me on your podcast, and it's like constantly podcasting, and you get overexposed to them, so you're hearing all their material anyway. Then you go see them live, and that's the same stuff you said on the podcast, on the several podcasts. But then you get like 4 or 5 guys who are in this corner here, and they become a clique, and then they're bashing these people over here. A lot of that kind of high school mentality has.
Oh yeah, all the time.
We, as a comedy fan, we never saw that before there was podcasting. It was in green rooms. It was behind the curtain, and now it's been exposed. And I don't like it. As a fan of comedy, I don't like what it's done.
You reminded me of a moment when I think years ago when the movie Chicago came out with Renee Zellweger. She made a comment about this growing too much exposure to backstage kind of thing was happening. It was just starting back then. It's nowhere near what it is now. But I remember her saying something at a talk at the premiere of that in New York. She said, we've lost that imagination that we've created for the audience to see us on the big screen and imagine what our lives are like, or that distance. And she goes, now with social media, you can get really, it becomes normalized.
Right.
And then that's where we get people going and saying horrendous things because they feel they know you because they saw you in a movie.
Right.
Or on stage in our case.
Or they become stalkers in some cases too.
And they don't realize that it's stalking because
Yep.
they feel they know you.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, I can tell you tales, my friend.
Familiarity can breed contempt and all that kind of stuff. Whatever.
I've had folks who've seen me once, and then maybe years later, and then we have a quick conversation, and then years later they'll see me again, and they go, "Hi, how are you?" And I kind of remember the face. And they go, "Oh, a lot has happened. We have a lot to catch up on." And I'm like, wow.
How about we start by catching up on your name?
Like, oh my goodness. Like, wow.
Yeah.
It's, but again, I wouldn't have it any other way. I love every single person who comes to my show. I love everyone who comes to experience comedy and laugh. I mean,
right.
that's my only objective. And if they happen to be stalkers, and you're gonna get some eventually.
Yeah.
Well, it happens.
Well, I appreciate you being part of the program, and I wish you great success. And I hope the overall festival is a success, so that it keeps on going. I love stand-up comedy, and I think because Katie yesterday, she made a joke on Katie Hannigan, who I'm a fan of. She made a joke on Twitter that I'd like to see a robot or AI take over my job because I don't have one. And that's a funny joke, but I had to ruin it with seriousness, because I hate the fact that so many comedians buy into the tearing down of what they do, because I think comedy is a really important and noble art form, and I think
100%.
Humanity could not exist without it. And so to kind of buy into that public position of, well, you don't really work, you're just a comedian. That's a mindset that I want to talk people out. So I said your job is real and important, and AI or robotics could never replace you or any of the skilled people that do what you do. Sorry to ruin your joke. With respect and admiration, I'll be happy to take it all back if you want me to.
But think about what you just said. It was a little contradictory. You were talking about how we expose too much of the backstage and through podcasts and stuff.
Right.
But you were she was doing that whole kind of facade. Everybody in the world at first glance thinks we only work for an hour, and that's it.
Right,
1 hour a day. You're so lucky. And so that's the thing that Renee Zellweger was talking about, is that there's that facade. Let them think what they want to think. But yes, it's nice to have both. A little bit of moderation about the history of the performer, and then stop before you
Right.
get into this Kardashian level of.
Right. No, I know, but I really, I don't know. For me, it's a pet peeve about um, understanding the value of the art form, because this is why I think so many people are willing to work for nothing for 10 years. Because
Mhm.
if you don't see what you do as valuable, you're not gonna demand to be compensated for it, right? And I think that's because I often talk about in music. uh, I was getting paid really from the start. My very first gig, I was getting, but in comedy, you can go years without seeing a dime, and that's just not fair in my view, because it does add value to people's lives, and it's an
You know what's
important.
really interesting regarding, I guess you could say hashtag fine arts versus comedy. I have 22 one person shows. My one person shows are not that different from stand up comedy. Couple of props, a couple of characters that are not me personally. Like I create these things, but then the money that is offered because it's theater
Right,
is
right,
way up here. And
right,
I will put more effort, travel more miles for stand up comedy. And the offer is here. And it's because how people view the theater, a fine art, as opposed to comedy, which you could get in a bar.
right.
Yeah, that's a whole other conversation, my friend.
I know, but
Mhm.
I think people, at the point of, I guess, at the end of your life, laughs become more valuable. They become gold.
Absolutely. It's why
So,
we live longer.
right, right,
Mhm.
yeah. So I do think comedy is a noble profession, and that's all. I don't mean to spoil people's jokes, and sometimes I do, and then I have to apologize for it. And I say, if you want me to take it all back and be disrespectful and just let the joke be there, I'll be happy to do that. Anyway, I definitely appreciate what you're doing. I guess I have to follow your website to find out if you come to New York ever. I would love to go see you live.
Yeah, I'll
Uh,
be in New York on August 15th and August 18th. August 15th, I'll be at the Broadway Comedy Club.
oh, cool.
And on August 18th, I'll be doing Queendom at Pete's Candy Store in Williamsburg.
Williamsburg. I didn't even know about Pete's Candy Store. I didn't even know about
It's like
Brooklyn.
it's like a nice music venue, really nice.
Yeah, Brooklyn is kicking ass
Mm,
with entertainment and what it's doing. It's like a cultural renaissance
absolutely.
there. All right, well, good. I definitely will see you in New York then. It's looking like Broadway Comedy Club on the 15th. I can make that one. So I look
Yeah,
forward to it.
awesome. Love to have you.
Well, good luck with the festival, and I hope you knock them dead, as they say. Not, literally, but
You have to say that.
yes. Anyway, thank you
Otherwise,
for
this could be used as supporting evidence in a court of law later on.
right, right. Thank you for being here, and I hope people will follow you and support you, and look forward to big things from you. Thanks for being
Thank
here.
you so much. I appreciate it. Have a
All right.
great day.
You too. Bye for now. Jade Esteban Estrada, folks, and he'll be at Six City Festival in Lakewood Tavern tomorrow night, or it's tonight, August 9th. That's tomorrow night. Um, Lakewood Village Tavern, Madison Avenue, Lakewood, Ohio. And the full schedule is on sixcity.comedy.com. The way, and I'm glad he clued me into this. The way you see the actual full schedules is you click on the tickets links, and then you can see where everybody will be and when they'll be there. Good stuff. The bus stop is Sunday, I believe he said, at the Music Settlement 2920 Detroit Avenue in Cleveland. Okay. So we got that all set away. Anyway, that's the show for today. I have to go perform for the vets today in a room where I played a guy to death in a good way. We'll talk about Knock 'em Dead. I've told this story before, but because I'm going back to the room today, I'm sure it's going to be an emotional moment for me. Man, I was booked to play a show there where there's generally 40 or 50 people in the audience. There was one person in the audience. He was in a wheelchair, unconscious, and the nurse said he had been in a coma for 2.5 months. He hasn't opened his eyes or spoken a word in 2.5 months, and nobody else came to the show. It was me performing for him. I have an hour show to do, And I got a little silly. I was dancing around. I was singing songs, and dancing a circle around his wheelchair and being really silly. A lot of rocking out and stuff. And the nurses were all laughing, enjoying it, but he wasn't responding at all. After about 45 minutes into it, I called the guy who booked it. I said, "Listen, I'm playing for one person who's in a coma right now." He said, "Yeah, do one more song and get out of there." So I thought about it for a second, and I don't know why, but I chose a song that was an original song that I wrote 35 years ago, 40 years ago, something like this. And it's called Sweet Forgiveness, and it has a lot of religious overtones. One of the lines in the song, one of the phrases in the song, it says, I've got a friend in Jesus. I know he died for me, but I pray that he'll forgive me for the times I don't believe. And as I sung that line, the man opened his eyes, looked at the lights in the ceiling, reached up for the lights in the ceiling, mumbled two words that I don't know what he said, and he passed away. And he left this world. He had been in a coma for two months, never said a word for 2 months. Then the song I wrote, which was kind of very spiritual, awakened him, opened his eyes, sent him off to peace. And for me, it was like an emotional waterfall. I mean, as soon as I went out to the nurse and I said, "I think he's gone." She went in and she checked his pulse and checked his vitals. He's passed away. And tears just started flowing. And I got in the elevator, and on my way down to the street, and I was just sobbing. And I don't know why. I mean, it was, to me, happy tears, but very, I don't know, connected feeling. I'm going back there. I'll be back there in about 2 hours from now. I need to prepare for it. But it should be an interesting day. And I'm probably going to get a little bit emotional about it again today, because it was such a powerful moment for me. Literally played a guy off to peace. So, a lot of nice memories there. I will see you tomorrow. Thanks for coming. Always remember to turn on your radio. Have a great day, and we'll talk about it tomorrow. Bye for now.
I to me, listen to me, listen to me now. Listen to me, listen to me, listen to me now. Listen to me, listen to me, listen to me now. Listen to me, listen to me, listen to me now.